Hey, what's going on?
Jori, what's going on? Live from
Nothing
Athens,
much.
Greece.
Yeah, we all the way across the pond here in Athens.
That's what
So,
I'm talking about.
how you been?
I've been great. I'm happy to have you here. I know you and I have been working on some things behind the scenes recently, but this is all about you today. I just want people to hear your journey, hear themselves and your journey to be able to understand, especially as a current athlete. Like you're in your 10th year, you're not even done playing
Yeah.
yet, and you're building something that's major and you're just getting started. So, with that being said, I mean, can you please just talk to everyone what it's like, why even start Weevolve in the first place? How was the idea
hmm
born, and how did you know it was time to start mapping out a plan to bring it to life?
hmm I mean, my story is just kind of like a lot of other entrepreneurs. It started with my own struggle, and it just started from a place of really um, being overseas and seeing the lack of community, seeing the lack of resources, and seeing just how in the whole landscape of the sport industry really hasn't been revolutionized, but our complaints and our yelling as athletes and our voices constantly were saying like we want more, we need something different. Um, and I think it just came from a place of that downtime. Like I was going through a tough period, and that's the beauty of those tough times because during tough times is where you start to really think and remove yourself from the situation. And that's where the mission and the passion for Wevolve came. But then over time, when it came to how do I solve a problem, how do I make it a business, that evolved and it continues to evolve. But Wevolve came about basically from my personal mantra, willingly evolving, and it was kind of like I just can't evolve alone. Like we all need to evolve, and that's where the name came. And it all started from a place of wanting and longing, truthfully, for community, but community that actually supports, holds everyone accountable, and we constantly, grow together. And that's just, I think that came from growing up in New Orleans. Like I grew up on the street with everybody, so I started to define that I had that at a young age, that real community, that close knit family. And I think going abroad, it kind of like over time, I realized like that's something that I would love to see happen within the sports landscape, especially for athletes.
Right. And can you dive into some of those challenges as an overseas professional basketball player? Because I've even heard you refer to that community specifically as like the forgotten community or the lost community
hmm
of overseas basketball players. What are some of the challenges? Because as in the States, we just hear stories. Oh, I lived overseas for X
hmm
amount of years. We don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. What are some of the challenges that you're helping that you're looking to help solve through Wevolve?
hmm I think definitely there's a lack of knowledge and data that the athletes have access to. There a lot of like salaries aren't public knowledge. So when it comes to the business side, we don't really have a lot of resources to actually like promote or even better represent ourselves or our cases. So that's one thing. But when it comes to more of a community based thing, a lot of athletes deal with that isolation. I think the mental health aspect of being far removed from home, on top of dealing with the pressures to perform, on top of dealing with the one off contracts, which adds another layer of pressure and competition. And, that all of that mixed in, plus being in foreign land, can be difficult. And it's not just the Americans, it's also the Europeans. A lot of them are starting their careers with the lack of resources. We come over from being really coddled in college to now not having these resources. So for me, it's a number of things that's lacking. Whereas stateside, the topic of mental health, the topic of women empowerment, all these things are like growing tremendously. But in Europe, women in sport, that's not a big topic. Mental health is not a big topic. And I feel like what's lacking, and it's not just Americans, it's all of the whole community abroad. And I definitely want to be an advocate for all of us, not just the Americans, but me personally, definitely went through just broken relationships, um, feeling, the little bit of depression that I face, confidence, is tough to maintain, because you're constantly being rated with these one-off contracts. You never know when you're going to leave. You never know when you're going to be cut. It makes you insecure at times. So it's just so much, that the need for community and support is huge.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, Jory. I really love that you're building, like every time I talk to you, it always comes down to that word, as you just said, which is community, right? I know
Mm-hmm.
that's the mission behind what you're building. I know that even from the start, right out the gate, that was your mission, is of course addressing all those areas that you just discussed, but the main thing is addressing them as a community, and that's what's so great
Mm-hmm.
about it. Um, you're essentially starting a tech company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always curious to know, because I know nothing about that space at all. Like, what
Yeah.
actually goes into building a technology platform? Where does one even get started if they're thinking about entering that
Mm-hmm.
space?
Look, I don't know either at the beginning, like the truth is, like, you start, as they say, you start with a pain point, and then you start to figure out what's the solution. One of the biggest things that I've done is I looked into other industries, and I saw how technology was reinventing and disrupting those industries. And when I looked at our industry in sport and how business is done and how we even communicate amongst one another, it's still like we still back in the day, old school. It's still like randomly finding people and like, oh, you were right down the street. It's like, look, it's 2021. Like, why are we? So for me, had no idea. It all started with just, look, I knew these things needed to happen. Now, how do we make this happen efficiently? And that's where it became technology and how we can implement that. And I think, again, when it starts with anything around technology and there's algorithms and all these other things, you have to remember to just start with the basic, what do you want to happen? Technology just makes whatever you do as a human to human interaction, that just makes it more efficient and speeds it up. That doesn't mean technology is something that doesn't, is going to just change everything. So for me, it wasn't that, oh, where's the technology? It was more so, what do I want to do? What actions need to happen? And then you see and learn how tech can make streamline that. And so that was really it. And then, the next thing was just seeking out those people that have that knowledge and just really educating yourself. And I'm constantly educating myself. Like, we have a long way to go. So, I mean, staying curious is the biggest thing. And finding the right people who are smarter than you in that space, truthfully, who believe in the mission.
Mm. I love that you talked about constantly educating yourself, right? And this is why we're here, right? We're talking about going
Mm-hmm.
from being an athlete to an entrepreneur. You're doing both right now. You're wearing two hats, which is impressive. And the fact that a lot of times we overlook the fact that as athletes we have to constantly be up in our game, finding different ways to train, making sure our diets, taking better care of our sleep, like checking all the boxes. And so I love that while still in your professional career, you've been able to utilize those same things to build in your entrepreneurial side and learn to seek out people, get mentorship, get coaching, be a
Mm-hmm.
student, being a student of life. That's something I always talk about. And I love that you're doing that. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you too is, like, how do you balance it, right? How do you balance, because it's not one of those things where, oh, this is just my little side hustle and I do this whenever I have time after games or in between practices. Like, you are full speed ahead. You're making me look bad because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in a professional career right now, but you are full speed ahead building this thing out. So what is the balance
Mm-hmm.
like?
It's tough, man. Like, seriously, Taj, it's not easy because um, we already know that doing anything outside of sport, to those that rely on us from a business standpoint to perform, is not they don't want you out here trying to do all these other things. They want you to stay in one lane. And so you're trying to balance making sure you show up to practices and show up to your this career and let them know you're not missing a step. And then you're trying to show up as you build a team of people to say, can she do this? She's playing, and like, is this just a joke or is this real? And so now you're trying to show up to this stage and make sure everybody that's believing in what you're saying, they see you pulling up and they see you taking the lead. And so you're trying to take the lead in two different arenas. Um, And it is a lot. And I'm learning still a lot how to balance it. I'm learning just project management, learning how to manage my calendar, like there's so much that we don't see until we start to get into these things. And that's why I think it's so important to transition while you're playing, because you see those things you're lacking at. You see those missed layups. You see those, the missed passes, because you're like, man, someone else was doing this for me. Someone else was balancing my calendar. Someone else was thinking strategically for me. And all I had to do was focus on playing. So balancing everything, it comes down to really learning how to manage your time and learning how to manage yourself as well, because we've been micromanaged, like get up, stretch, you got this, y'all eat breakfast, you do this. Someone else has been creating your life, and now you're trying to create your life, and that's not easy. And I think there's no real answer to how to balance it. It's just you got to roll up your sleeves the same way you figured out how to play that game you love, and just start to, again, it's back to learning and being a student and figuring it out as you go. And hopefully you build a team of people that are gonna kind of like make sure they cover your help side. Like,
Right.
hey, back door, I'm beat, help. Like,
Right.
so yeah, that's just kind of how it is.
Right. And then speaking of building a team around you, I know because we touched on attracting people or studying people or bringing in people who can guide you and mentor you.
Mm-hmm.
What is the process like of assembling a team around you? Obviously there's a lot of correlation between that and playing your sport, but how do you know? Because at first, obviously, you're doing everything yourself, right? And that's one of the great things about you too. Not only are you building WeEvolve, and obviously WeEvolve is an extension of you, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do a lot already on top of the professional career too. You've told me time and time again, like if I'm talking to someone who, you know, like the woman I referred, India, right? Who's
Mm-hmm.
she's about to enter a professional career. You're like, oh, Taj, send her my way. I can give her some advice on, looking for agents and stuff like that. So you got the
Right.
company, you got the team, but you got things that you're doing by yourself. With all that going on, how are you like, okay, now I need to hire for this, I need to hire for that, I need to build this type of team around me? What is that process like to identify those people?
Mm-hmm. For me, it's when it comes to hiring processes, like I have not reached that point. For me, when it comes to building a team around me, it's all truthfully human value based. That's where I start. And, it's about really taking my time with it as well and watching how people move, what they say, and how they move. uh, and do our values match up, and giving them time to also realize, look, this is what we're trying to build, and this is the time it's gonna take. Are you willing to be here for the whole season? Like preseason, are you gonna be here for the whole time for this long journey? And so for me, truthfully, it's not about what their skills are. One of the things is that I love truth. I value truth, even if sometimes it hurts my feelings. I value that, and that's one thing I look for when I'm deciding if I'm going to really add someone to the ecosystem of WeEvolve. The other thing is I value people that have creative minds and are willing to speak their mind when it comes to different things. And so I definitely enjoy that. And then those that have a heart and a real soul for a community and understanding what it means to give a little less of yourself to gain more for the collective. And definitely the fourth one, definitely having someone or individuals that believe no matter what athletes might be a little lazy at times, or we coddled, or we already have enough, that look, there's still room to enhance the experience. There's still room to share those stories. And those are kind of the four things that I look for when I'm looking like, hey, you want to join WeEvolve, you want to be a part of, let's collaborate. Because before anything else starts to happen as we grow, you got to get those core people that really believe in those values and that gonna tell you the truth and they're gonna believe in the mission. Because without that, like they could be the smartest people, but those little things will make all of that be null and void.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of this quote, or maybe just a meme that I saw or something, where it said people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision.
Hmm.
And that really makes me think of you because just a little backstory. I first found out about what you were doing and building with WeEvolve from Joy Walker's podcast, Sets for Life.
Hmm.
Shout out to Joy Walker. So I was listening to her interview you, and I'm like, this is dope. And I could tell not only what you were building, because there's a lot of people talking about building things, but who you were as a person and the heart behind it is
Hmm.
what had me be like, I'm gonna reach out to Jory. I don't know what this is gonna lead to, but I want
Right.
to make this connection. So when I'm hearing you talk about the people who are willing to sacrifice and contribute to the mission before there's financial reward, right? Because everybody wants the
Hmm.
money up front without realizing
Yeah,
how you
they do.
right. Everybody, well, how much am I going to get paid to be a part of WeEvolve? Like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you're missing the bigger picture, right? And
Hmm.
so I love that you touched on that. It's about identifying the right people and attracting those people by who you're being and the
Yep.
messages that you're continuing to share. So I want to you kind of touched on it at the very beginning, but I like to just zoom out for people who they're gonna have their eyes and ears open for WeEvolve down the line. They want to be a part of it. What are all the moving parts of the ecosystem that you're creating?
Hmm. Well, in a sense, WeEvolve, the ecosystem is basically to create a self-reliant tool for the athlete. We want to bring all the moving parts of the industry to the athlete so that they
Mm-hmm.
may better manage and control their career and just feel more empowered. And so there are those that service the athlete, which again, we like to focus on athlete entrepreneurs with smaller businesses that service those athletes. That's who we definitely empower, and that's who we're loyal to first, above
Right.
all. And so, whether it be financial advisors, mental coaches, consultants, we want to seek out those individuals that did play and are now servicing them because we believe they can be mentors on top of offering these services. So that's one piece. Mentorship is huge for us. And then the other two pillars we have is player empowerment and social and lifestyle. And with that player empowerment, that ecosystem is more so, again, the tools, assembling those tools that will help them better manage themselves without relying 100% on the other industry leaders that we've been accustomed to letting them manage all these things. And then social lifestyle is really just us not missing a beat, not missing the OG that's living right in the corner now that maybe they played 10 years ago. We don't see them on ESPN anymore, but they have a wealth of knowledge. We don't want anyone to miss those people, but at the same time, we also don't want to miss, for example, Darius Willis was in Switzerland. I was playing in Switzerland. We both played at IU at the same time. We used to hang out and go kick it at IU. And this man is playing football professionally in Switzerland, and I'm there. We don't want to miss out on the beauty of what we could have cultivated if there was something in place. So those three pillars, player empowerment, social lifestyle, and mentorship, that makes up the ecosystem of WeEvolve in a more intuitive and streamlined way. And then from there, that ecosystem is more so really validating and holding all the other people accountable, including ourselves.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, Jory. I love that. I think sometimes we get so caught up on trying to connect with people everywhere that we forget, like you
Hmm.
said, about the people who are right down the street or who,
Yeah.
who are in our network, right? Who went to our university or, might be in the
Hmm.
same city. And I love that once again, it comes back down to community. And I really love that you're putting so much emphasis on that because, of course, you're surrounding the people who are part, who need the services, who need the support through WeEvolve. You're surrounding them with all these different things so that they know they can lean on other people. But
Right.
there's a lot of it that just I think there's a peace of mind that comes with knowing that you got people there who are in your corner, right?
Right.
For anything, even if it's just you need to talk to somebody, you know?
Hmm.
Like I was saying earlier, you offered to have a conversation with a woman that I'm coaching right now and guide her through everything she's going through. So I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. And I feel like um I feel like I know you're just getting started and you've accomplished so much already, but I'm really curious to know like what is the next, I don't want to say milestone because I know it's a
Hmm.
process, it's a journey, but like what is the next thing you're looking forward to with Weevaw? What's the next big step, the
Yeah.
next mountaintop you're looking to climb?
hmm Yeah, the next milestone for us is really just getting our core tribe onto the MVP prototype and just really seeing what they're going to say, what's their feedback, um, and kind of going and starting from there. 2021, we want to have that released in a better phase so we can really start to just take action. It's been, when you talk about balance, man, like sometimes you feel like you're moving like a snail. And you're like, play like a time definitely we are ready to get that out there to the world. The next thing, for me, is really taking more action from an advocacy standpoint. And so putting some true action behind like, hey, we need things to change. And so what that looks like completely, I'm learning, trying to figure it out, whether it be an initial petition or something to make conditions better for us to start the train going for making things better for athletes abroad. And so that would be one. And then the third one would definitely be taking the storytelling about the lost community to another level. And really finding individuals, whether it be sponsors or whatever, that's interested in the Weevolve team tell those stories, because we believe it's a unique lifestyle story that hasn't been really told, and isn't in the mainstream. And we're passionate about getting that out there so it can lead to more.
And speaking of telling those stories, I know that you started a podcast. You started it last year, right? Or was it 2019?
Yeah, Unguarded podcast presented by Weevolve. Really just sharing our truths, our struggles, ups, downs, lows, everything about the overseas journey. And we focus on stories. We have a few European athletes, but we're definitely looking to even expand and tell the European story a lot more as well, because there's a lot that they're lacking a little bit more than us as Americans. At times, like we're complaining, but we're spoiled when it comes to them as well. So, the podcast has just been one-on-one interviews with all players that have played overseas, and just really diving deeper, getting unguarded about our struggles and things we deal with as humans, not so much on the court.
Yeah, I've had the chance to listen to several episodes. I got to catch up. I'm a little behind, but please believe I will catch up. And
Yeah.
one of the things, to your point, I like that you are interviewing the overseas players as well, because what
Mhm.
that does is, just like you said, it creates a level of gratitude for the players who are coming from the U.S. going over there. Because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, a lot of players who are based in the U.S. and go play overseas, they know they can just make a quick call back home if they need some funds or whatever that looks like. Not so
Right.
much the case for players overseas, and I've heard people talk about that on your podcast. So I really like that you're bringing that to the table. A question that I have to ask you, I don't think I've asked you this offline yet, so it would be great to ask you right now. What do you want the legacy of
Yeah.
Jori Davis to be?
Man, look, the legacy of Jori Davis is really being built. But when I look at, and I'm learning, there's so many advocates that have been not only just for the Black community but also for athletes. But the legacy I want to leave is that I was just a part. I was a key part of really getting the community to level up. The legacy is that I bridged gaps between dope souls. I bridged gaps between individuals that maybe would have never connected if I didn't be the one to put myself out there and say, hey, I see something that needs to be connected. I want to definitely make sure that part of my legacy is that my family and everyone was proud of the impact I left, especially when it comes to uh, how I grew up and how I was raised around our faith, and always, being told that like no matter what this world may be doing, and constantly is going to be a lot of pain, suffering, but you're always going to have to be that light. And you might have your hard times, but it's important to always remember that that light is needed. Someone needs that a little bit more. And so my legacy is not something to be the biggest company of Wevolve or nothing, man. Like I just want to be a bridge. I want to be a connector, and I want to do something that helped someone else and is going to continue to help someone else when I'm long gone. And that's what I want my legacy to be. And I probably will never see it. Who knows? But hey, that's my ticket when my soul moves on from this earth. You know what I'm saying? So definitely just working towards that ticket, as the old folks say.
That's right. Yeah. I love that question, and I love your answer so much because as I'm hearing you say all those things, like you said, your legacy is still being built. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time, Jory, everything you just laid out, you're already doing it. You know what I mean? You've
Mm-hmm.
already done it. And you're still playing professional ball. So
Yeah.
once you're done, like it's gonna be crazy to watch. Like I feel like it's gonna be a quantum leap for Wevolve once you just
Mm-hmm.
have that time freed up and you can pour,
Mm-hmm.
put 24/7 into that. That's when I
Right.
really feel. I mean, it's already taken off now, but I feel like just the impact that you visualize, everything you just said, once you officially retire, you probably got 10 more years in you, let's be real. But
Nah, 10 now. No, I might need the Tiger Bomb in the Bengay.
your knees started screaming when I said 2 years.
Yes, yes.
But my point is that I just feel like, once you're officially done playing ball, that's when the vision that you just articulated, that's when it's really going to take off. And you really are that light. The word luminary is something that I heard it somewhere, and I just been using that a lot. Like you're a luminary, you're a light at the end of the tunnel. You're a light in the tunnel for people, and that's a
Right.
beautiful thing. So before we
Appreciate
wrap
that.
up, absolutely. And thank you for coming on and sharing. Please tell people how they can get in touch, how they can support Wevolve, how can
Mhm.
they follow the journey of Jori Davis?
Yeah, so first of all, you can follow me on Twitter. I am Jori Davis. Instagram, Jori Davis 32. You can follow Wevolve Society on IG. You can connect with us, info@wevolve.net or Jory@wevolve.net. You can also go to the wevolve.net website. And if you would like to collab or connect with us, just click the Build With Us link, fill out the information. And also the link in bio on the Wevolve Society IG account and also Twitter. You can also connect with us via those platforms. It is a exclusive ecosystem that we're building, and we are trying to really vet and validate those that we're slowly building with. But we definitely would love to support also with the podcast Unguarded that is on Spotify, Anchor, all podcasting platforms. Just listen in, and how you can also support Wevolve. Those you see that we post that are in the community and network already, support them, because the more they elevate, the more Wevolve elevates. And yeah, that's kind of it right now. And just stay tuned.
That's right. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
One more thing before I let you go. I love how you talked about the vetting process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're gonna give your players access, or the people who are part of Wevolve, give them access to certain services or certain people who can help and guide them. I love the fact that you're really being intentional about vetting them out first. You're not just letting anybody and everybody come in the door and say, "Hey, I do this, I do that." But like, you got to get your background check in first before you
Mm-hmm.
officially get your Wevolve stamp. So I
Yeah.
love that you're doing that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke to a few people that private networks and stuff has been talked about before amongst athletes, more higher end athletes, and I think one of the key things is that we have to stay. That's our value. Like we have to stay solid in that. If we miss out from a political standpoint on things, we miss out. But we believe over time that's going to be valuable to the athletes and building their trust and knowing that this is what we stand for here, and that they're going to be presented with the best options based on everything they're trying to accomplish with their careers and lifestyle. So
That's right. I love that approach. I love that mentality. Jory, I love what you're doing. We could talk for another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time. I know it's getting late out
yeah,
there in Greece. So I'm going to let you go. Thank you for coming on and sharing, and I'll talk to you very soon.
thank you. I appreciate it, Taj. Love what you're doing. Love what you're building. And we gonna keep going together, man. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Let's do it.
All right.
Bye, Jory.
Peace.
Peace.